What happens when a lion cub, no bigger than a house cat, stares down a 1,000-pound elephant? Its life hanging by a thread? A lone ranger throws himself into the fray to save it, but the lioness's next move? It's nothing you'd expect. This story of courage and survival in the heart of the Serengeti will grip you from start to finish. Stick around, you won't believe what happens next. The Serengeti is a sun-scorched wasteland. Its grasslands split open by a brutal drought. Hot winds whip up clouds of dust, choking every creature fighting to survive. At the heart of this struggle lies a deep well, a fragile oasis where animals gather to drink. Park rangers like Jake Thornton haul water trucks to keep it filled, a lifeline for the wildlife. Jake, a rugged 30-something with a sharp mind and a heart for the wild, knows this well is a powder keg where desperate animals collide. Nearby, a mother lion and her cub live in isolation, cut off from their pride. The cub, a scrappy bundle of fur with fearless eyes, trails its mom, whose lean frame and dust-streaked fur speak to her relentless fight to protect her young. They come to the well at dusk, when the air cools just enough to breathe. The cub pounces on shadows, oblivious to danger, while the mother's gaze sweeps the horizon like a sentinel. From his truck, Jake watches, struck by their bond. That mom's a warrior, he thinks, but that cub's trouble waiting to happen. Jake's nicknamed the Cub Scout for its relentless curiosity, a trait that's equal parts endearing and reckless. He's seen plenty of wildlife in his 5 years as a ranger, but Scout's boldness stands out. Raised in the Midwest, Jake grew up dreaming of the wild, trading cornfields for the Serengeti's raw beauty. Now, as he watches Scout, he feels a pang of admiration and worry. The cub spirit reminds him of his own stubborn streak, but out here, stubbornness can be deadly. As the mother lion dozes in the shade of a gnarled acacia, Scout scampers toward the well, drawn to the water's cool shimmer under the midday sun. The well's edge is treacherous, slick with mud and ringed with jagged stones worn smooth by countless hooves. Scout doesn't care. It dips his paws in, splashing and batting at ripples, its tail flicking with delight. The water's surface dances with reflections of the cloudless sky, and Scout pounces at a floating leaf, letting out a playful chirp that echoes faintly. The mother stirs, her ears twitching at the sound. She lifts her head, her golden eyes narrowing, and lets out a low growl, a warning to stay close. Her tail flicks, a subtle sign of her growing unease, and she shifts her weight, muscles rippling under her dusty fur. Scout glances back, its expression almost defiant, before returning to its game. It edges closer to the drop, balancing on the well's muddy lip, its tiny claws digging for grip. Jake, parked 100 yards away, feels his stomach knot. He's seen cubs push their luck, and this well is no playground. "Simon, Scout, listen to your mom," he mutters, his fingers tightening on the steering wheel, sweat beading on his brow. Just yesterday, Scout had a close call, slipping on the well's edge and tumbling into the shallow water. The mother had yanked it out with a swift paw, her growls sharp with exasperation, her eyes flashing with a mix of relief and warning. Jake had watched, heart in his throat, knowing how fast things can go wrong. Now, as Scout creeps closer, the air feels heavier, charged with an unspoken threat. The sun beats down, turning the ground into a furnace, and the distant hum of insects grows quieter, as if the savanna is holding its breath. A faint breeze carries the scent of dry grass and distant rain, a cruel tease in the drought. Scout leans forward, swatting at a beetle skittering across the water surface, its hind legs wobbling. It teeters, one paw slipping, and Jake's breath catches. The mother's growl deepens, more urgent, and she rises, padding closer with deliberate steps, her eyes locked on her cub. Scout scrambles back, but its gaze stays on the well, brimming with mischief. Jake exhales, but the unease lingers. He scans the horizon, his instincts screaming trouble's near. The savanna feels alive, its pulse quickening, and Jake knows this calm is just the eye of the storm. A deep rumble shakes the earth as a herd of elephants lumbers into view, their massive forms kicking up clouds of dust that glow red in the sunlight. At the front is a bull elephant, a colossus with tusks like scythes and eyes bloodshot from thirst. The herd females, calves, and smaller mouse trails behind, their trunks swaying, ears flapping to cool their overheated bodies. They've trekked miles across the parched savanna, and this well is their salvation. But when the bull spots the lions, its ears flare, and a bone-rattling bellow splits the air, vibrating through Jake's chest, making his hands tremble on the steering wheel. The mother lion leaps to her feet, her body low, muscles coiled like springs. She positions herself slightly to the side, her eyes darting between the bull and Scout, a strategic move to guard her cub while keeping an escape route open. Scout, still at the well's edge where he freezes, its tiny frame dwarfed by the approaching titan. The bull locks eyes on the cub, mistaking its splashing for a challenge to its water. With a furious snort, it charges, its massive feet pounding the earth, sending tremors through the ground. The herd's trumpets rise, a chaotic chorus, as dust swirls like a storm, stinging Jake's eyes. Scout, startled, scrambles to climb the well's muddy lip but slips, its hind legs dangling over the shallow drop. The bull's trunk lashes out, coiling around Scout's torso and hoisting the cub into the air. Scout's piercing squeals cut through the cage, its claws flailing uselessly, its body twisting in pain. The mother lunges, snapping at the bull's legs, her claws raking its thick hide, but the bull forces her back with a swing of its trunk, its bellow drowning her roars. Her eyes blaze with a mother's desperation, her body taut as she searches for an opening. But the size difference is staggering. She's a warrior, but the bull's awes a force of nature. Jake's heart slams against his ribs, sweat dripping down his face. He grabs a sturdy stick from his truck and sprints toward the well, boots pounding the dry earth, his breath ragged. "Let it go!" he shouts, voice raw with fear. He knows he's no match for a 5-ton elephant, and the mother's growls remind him she could turn on him. The bull dangles Scout higher, the cub's cries weakening as it struggles against the crushing grip. The mother's roars grow frantic, her tail lashing, her eyes locked on her cub. Jake's mind races every second, brings Scout closer to death, and the herd's restless stomping only heightens the chaos. Jake skids to a stop near the well, waving his stick and bellowing at the bull, his voice hoarse. The elephant swings its head, its trunk still clamped around Scout, whose cries are now faint whimpers. The mother lion circles, her roars vibrating with fury, but she's outmatched. Jake's pulse thunders, every move risks his life. Then a sharp yip slices through the chaos. Jake spots a hyena slinking toward the well, jaws parted, ready to snatch Scout if the bull drops it. In a flash, the mother pivots, her body a blur as she charges the hyena with a snarl that chills Jake's blood. She slams into it, sending the scavenger tumbling, and it flees. Jake's jaw drops. She knew, he thinks, stunned by her cunning. The lioness wasn't just fighting the elephant, she was guarding Scout from a hidden threat. Seizing the moment, Jake lunges closer, jabbing at his stick at the bull's flank and is shouting until his throat burns. "Drop it!" The bull's eyes flash, but the chaos Jake's yells, the mother's roars, the hyena's retreat overwhelms it. With a final trumpet, it loosens its grip and Scout falls to the ground near the well. Jake dives forward, scooping the cub into his arms and rolling away from the well's edge, his breath ragged. The bull stomps back to its herd, but Jake's focus is on Scout. The cub's limp, its fur matted with blood from a deep gash on its flank, its breathing shallow from shock. The mother returns, eyes blazing as she looms over Jake, who cradles her cub. He's sure she'll attack, but she only growls softly, her gaze on Scout. "I am helping," Jake whispers, hands trembling. The lioness holds her ground, her restraint a fragile bridge of trust. Scout's gash bleeds steadily, and its ragged breaths signal shock. Jake kneels, hands steady despite fear, and opens his medical kit. He cleans the wound, wincing at its depth, and injects antibiotics to prevent infection, adding a sedative to ease the cub's pain. Scout's eyes flutter, and Jake's chest tightens with hope. "You're a fighter, Scout," he murmurs, his voice soft but firm. He signals the mother to follow, and she leaps into the truck's bed beside Scout, wrapped in a tarp. The drive to the wildlife center is tense, the mother's low growls filling the air. Jake glances back, marveling at her trust. At the center, vets rush out, their faces grim as Jake explains the attack. They stabilize Scout, stitching the gash and administering fluids to counter shock. The mother in a nearby enclosure paces but stays calm, her eyes locked on her cub. The vets work tirelessly, monitoring Scout's vitals, ensuring no infection sets in. Over 3 days, Scout fights back, taking wobbly steps and nibbling food. Reunited, the pair nuzzle fiercely, their bond a quiet miracle. Jake visits, stroking Scout's back, and feels a jolt when the mother nudges his Honda gesture that humbles him. As he watches them, he reflects on the lioness's restraint, her intelligence in that moment of crisis. She chose trust over instinct, he thinks, a lump in his throat. When the gates open, they stride into the grasslands, Scout's limp fading, their silhouettes bold against the sunset. In the months that follow, Jake often spots them near the well during his patrols. The mother meets his gaze, her eyes calm, almost knowing, while Scout bounds playfully, pausing to glance at Jake as if recognizing their savior. These visits, rare in the wild, feel like a quiet thank you, a bond forged in crisis that lingers across the savannah's vastness. This story is about courage, trust, and the wild's fierce spirit. Jake risked his life, and the lioness's cunning and trust showed us that heart transcends species. Those quiet visits to the well, they're a reminder that compassion leaves a lasting mark. Trust is a universal language. The lioness trusted Jake, and he trusted her, proving empathy can unite us with the wild. It's a call to act with courage and care for the creatures we share this planet with. Could you face that elephant? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, and share this story to inspire others. Subscribe to join our mission to celebrate wildlife. Stay wild.